Live from Studio 46, this is CBS 2 News This Morning.
Breaking news, a suspected killer accused of targeting homeless people under arrest this morning after a multi-state manhunt.
And more breaking news, this time in the shocking attacks at the Museum of Modern Art. Police say they have found the suspect in another major city.
And if you enjoyed yesterday's mild weather, it's about to get even warmer.
Good morning on this Tuesday, March 15th. I'm Chris Raggi.
And I'm Mary Kelby. Welcome to CBS 2 News This Morning. We will get to today's top stories in just a moment. But first, let's get over to that first alert forecast. It's 6:31, and here's Elise.
So temperatures this morning, a big range from the upper 20s to the upper 40s, but even the coldest temperatures this morning still warmer than what we had this time yesterday. Take a look at these numbers. We're at 28 degrees for Monticello, 30 for Poughkeepsie, 40 for White Plains, Greenwich, and Babylon, 41 for Brick, and 47 degrees for Central Park. So we've been holding steady in the upper 40s in and around New York City, so very mild out the door there this morning. Satellite and radar pretty quiet right now, but we do have more clouds in the mix today. We will see more of a mix of sun and clouds, and at times it may be only partly sunny. Still, temperatures will soar into the 60s. So cool and quiet this morning. By lunchtime should be right around 55 degrees, and 63 is the forecast high for today. So the warm up continues today, but today isn't even going to be the warmest day of the week. That's still a couple of days away. We'll talk about that coming up. For now, Chris, I'll send it back to you.
Okay, Lise, thank you. Now let's get your first alert traffic out there for you. CBS 2's traffic reporter Guy Stanier has the latest. Guy?
Thanks, Chris. We're going to head right up to Dan Rice and Chopper 2 over a big problem on the Gowanus Expressway this morning. Dan?
And Guy, we'll start here on the inbound side, just south of the Prospect Expressway. You see two cars sitting here in the left lane. A lot of damage to that second car there in your video. But this isn't even the worst of it yet here on the Gowanus Expressway. We're going to bring the camera back up past Industry City. You're going to see a second vehicle, or a second two-car crash being worked on by 38th Street. You can see the flashing lights there. One car is driven away, another one on the flatbed tow truck, and this is the one that's making a mess of the morning commute. We'll bring the camera back out. And to go back to Guy, we're going to show you that these delays, they take you all the way back to the Beartown Narrows Bridge. So, Guy, you know it's a rough ride here on the Gowanus this morning.
Wow, thanks, Dan. Alternate side parking is in effect today citywide. Chris and Mary, back to you.
Guy, thank you. 6:32 right now. Breaking news in the manhunt for a suspect accused in a string of attacks on homeless people in both New York City and Washington, D.C.
Police say they've made an arrest in the case. CBS 2's John Diaz joins us live from Soho with the latest this morning. John?
Chris and Mary, police both here in New York City as well as in Washington, D.C. have been vowing to catch this suspect. And earlier this morning, that's exactly what they did. Go ahead now, though, and take a look here at this tweet. As we speak, the suspect is currently being interviewed at the homicide branch of the Washington, D.C. Police Department. Now, police believe that this man, whose name has not yet been released, is responsible for 2 shootings here in New York City and 3 more in Washington, D.C. All of the victims were sleeping on the streets experiencing homelessness. 2 of them were killed. Now, officials say all 5 of the shootings were linked to the same gun, and federal investigators had been working with the NYPD and Metropolitan Police Department for this investigation. Now, police still have not gone into specific details how they found this suspect, but said that he was picked up walking on the street in Washington, D.C. earlier this morning by an ATF Washington Field Division, which is part of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Now, there was also a $70,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest. It is still unclear if any of those tips that came into that hotline came down and helped to catch this suspect. But police, though, on Twitter, though, they did thank everyone for their ongoing tips during this investigation. Of course, they'll keep it here with us. We'll continue to keep you updated. But for now, we are live this morning from Soho. John Diaz, CBS 2 News.
John, thank you. 6:34 right now. Breaking news this morning. The suspect in Saturday's double stabbing at the Museum of Modern Art has been arrested in Philadelphia.
Police say the man attacked 2 museum workers after being denied entry to a movie. CBS 2's Elijah Westbrook live at the moment this morning with more breaking details. Elijah?
Chris and Mary, that's right. That suspect is now behind bars. We're talking about 60-year-old Gary Cabana, who was discovered sleeping on a park bench in downtown Philadelphia by police around 1:30 this morning. And this comes after police say that he is now being accused of intentionally setting a hotel room on fire in that same area yesterday evening. It's been 3 days since this bizarre attack at the Museum of Modern Art sparked a citywide search for the suspect here in New York. Fast forward to last night. Police in Philadelphia were called to a Best Western hotel around 6 o'clock for reports of a fire burning in a room on the 5th floor. This viewer video appears to show police and firefighters responding to that incident, which they now believe was the result of arson. After checking surveillance footage and seeing the suspect may have signed into the hotel under his real name, Philly police stepped up patrols in the city, eventually finding the man last night sleeping on a bench at a Greyhound bus station.
The information I received that this individual is cooperating with police. He didn't put up a fight. He didn't resist when police took him into custody. He came along with police voluntarily, so we're lucky in that respect.
But the suspect is being described as a good person despite what went down on Saturday. His friend, who wants to remain anonymous, spoke exclusively with CBS 2 News on Monday.
He's not a monster. He is a troubled soul who needs help.
The longtime friend says the two studied theater at Missouri State University before later working as an usher on Broadway. But never did she think Cabana would do what he's being accused of committing in this video. In it, the suspect can be seen jumping over the reception desk at the MoMA before lunging toward museum employees. He then repeatedly stabs 2 employees, a man and a woman, both 24 years old, as dozens of people run for cover. Police say Cabana was a regular at MoMA, and Saturday he went there to watch a film, but he was denied access as his membership had been revoked due to 2 previous disorderly conduct incidents. Now, of course, all of this is still under investigation, including why the suspect decided to travel from right here in New York City down to Philadelphia. In the meantime, the Museum of Modern Art there behind me is expected to reopen for the first time following Saturday's incident. Reporting live this morning here in Midtown, Elijah Westbrook, CBS 2 News.
Elijah, thank you. Even more breaking news for you this morning. Another arrest, this time in the case of a suspect who was wanted for stabbing a McDonald's worker. The NYPD says that Ezekiel Dunn Jennings is now facing several charges, including attempted murder. Investigators say that he got into a fight with the workers at the restaurant in East Harlem last week and stabbed one of them, a 31-year-old man, with a box cutter. At last check, that victim was still listed in critical condition.
6:37 right now into the war in Ukraine. We're just learning the leaders of Poland, the Czech Republic, and Slovenia will travel to Kyiv on a European Union mission to show support. A series of Russian strikes hit a residential neighborhood in the capital city of Kyiv, igniting a huge fire in a 15-story apartment building. At least one person was killed and others remain trapped inside. A frantic rescue effort is now underway. The mayor of Kyiv says the attacks have been devastating.
Destroyed buildings, destroyed infrastructure. City bus just got hit by the rocket. Lives are getting lost.
While the war rages on, the humanitarian crisis grows worse by the day. More than 2.8 million people have fled Ukraine since the Russian invasion began. Ukraine's president is set to address members of Congress virtually tomorrow about the invasion.
Well, in Bergen County, New Jersey, a dozen members of Jewish organizations will travel to Poland to bring much-needed supplies to Ukrainian refugees. Members of the Temple Emmanuel of Gloucester collected donations that will be brought to the Poland-Ukraine border. Donated items, including socks, toiletries, baby formula, and diapers, will be packed into 65 duffel bags. Rabbi David Seth Kirshner is coordinating the effort.
We want to be there to help others in any way we can. This is a small drop in the bucket of support, but it's emblematic of what we stand for in our community, stands shoulder to shoulder with the people of Ukraine.
The group leaves on Sunday and will spend several days helping with the humanitarian crisis along that border.
6:39 right now, into the latest in the pandemic as COVID cases drop across the U.S. Concerns are growing over a spike in infections in China. A fast-spreading Omicron subvariant known as BA.2 is fueling the worst outbreak in the country since the pandemic began. Entire cities in China are now under lockdown. Here at home, data from the New York State Health Department says BA.2 is doubling in proportion statewide every 2 weeks, accounting for 10% of new infections.
Its transmissibility is much easier. You could be in contact with someone for a briefer period of time and still get it.
The CEO of Pfizer says a 4th vaccine dose will be necessary. The company is working on a variation of the vaccine, specifically targeting variants. So far, 81% of Americans have received at least one shot.
It is 6:40 right now. Coming up, demanding equal pay for women. Why today is the day to remind people about the gap in wages.
Also ahead, saving at the pump, how you can get the most for your money as gas prices soar.